Welcome to Measuring Success Right, the official student-led podcast of the Marriott Student Review, where we connect the leaders of tomorrow with the issues of today.
I'm Taya Wolf-Hobson, and I'm here with Reid Tileston. He's an author, athlete, and most importantly, a businessman. Go ahead and share an introduction about yourself and maybe kind of cover what you're an athlete in and what got you started in business.
Yeah, absolutely. What got me started in business was way back in the Bay Area in 1998, before Uber existed.
Okay.
My brother got his driver's license and he started to ferry our parents to the airport. Then he started to ferry our parents' friends to the airport, and they started to pay him pretty good money to do this. People didn't like taxi cabs. They really liked to pay this high school kid money to drive him to the airport. So my brother graduated, went to UC Berkeley, and he had this burgeoning airport taxi business.
Yeah.
Which he was now gone to college, so I took it over. I expanded it to my friends' parents, whole 9 yards.
How old were you?
16.
Okay.
right when I got my driver's license.
Yeah.
And I ended up making pretty good money by driving people to the airport. Because what I found is that they might pay a taxi cab $20. They were happy to pay me like $100. No joke. And that's what taught me the value of entrepreneurship through acquisition. I didn't build this business from the ground up at all. It just fell into my lap. A reason then that it was much easier to apply my entrepreneurial passion, my entrepreneurial orientation, and my entrepreneurial mindset to something that already existed versus starting something from scratch.
So is that where you'd say it started? Buying businesses instead of making them?
Mm-hmm. It literally started because of my entrepreneurial brother, Trevor. He got me going down that path.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And now I am absolutely blessed and honored to be teaching at BYU.
Yes.
I am a very big proponent of BYU students. I didn't go to BYU, didn't grow up in the church. I knew a number of BYU students from my time in business school and graduate school and beyond. And I was always just impressed by their ability to work hard, be very polite, and just be what I consider to be really ambitious and good human beings. And now being here teaching, I'm just like a kid in a candy shop. BYU students are exceptionally action-oriented. And I'm just excited to see whether or not they go out and buy businesses, which I hope a lot of them do, and a lot of them are looking right now. But really, whatever they end up doing, I'm excited for the ecosystem that exists here and happy to be helping to build it.
Thank you for teaching. That's how we met. And that class has inspired me to take off and see what else is out there. You graduated from Chicago Booth, and I reread the introduction of your book, Grit It Done. In there, you talked about how you were a TA for an entrepreneurship through acquisition class. Yeah. And then you started, you helped with the first conference. What are some things that you kind of saw from the beginning of the industry and where it is now that it's become a bigger deal?
It has absolutely become a bigger deal. And a lot of that's driven by demographics. There's just a lot of retiring business owners now that are passing their businesses on to the next generation in whatever form that takes. They could sell to private equity. They could pass it on to their kids. They could sell it to someone like you or I. Yeah. Demographically, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. The bottom line is that the secret is out. Being a business owner is, in my opinion, the 21st century version of the American dream. Yeah. I'm lucky because after I graduated from UC Berkeley, I had $100,000 saved up in the bank. Another reason I love BYU students is that because of the subsidized tuition here and the fact that students can get jobs door knocking for the summer, making great money. Students here are in such a unique position to do entrepreneurial endeavors, whether it be buying a business or starting something from scratch, because of that financial freedom and the skill set from knocking doors that exists here. What I would say, though, is that the secret's out. Being a business owner is a great life. Gallup every summer does a survey on which institutions Americans have the most faith in. And because you read the introduction to my book, what institution do they have the most faith in?
Small business.
Small business owners, right? They have more faith in small business owners than any other institution. And this trend has been steady for the last 30 years.
Wow.
Small business is 1. The military is typically number 2. Wow. Congress was 8%. Small business owners were 64%.
Oh, wow.
They don't ask this question every single year. Last time they asked it was 2019. Americans have more faith in small business owners than they do in science by a spread of 6 percentage points.
Oh my goodness.
Do you believe that, right?
That's hilarious.
So this life of being a small business owner is fantastic. And the thing is now just more people know about it. It's become more popular in pop culture, on social media. It's a great life. And I would point out that there's a really cool natural experiment that actually proves this.
Okay.
But to get there, we got to take a tour for a second, okay?
Okay.
We're going to go back to the 1980s.
Okay.
To when the Berlin Wall fell. For the first time, East Germans that have been living under communism, they now have the ability to take various new career tracks. And being a business owner was one of them. So they got to look, this natural experiment happened where they got to see East Germans, some worked for the government, some started small businesses, some took jobs at corporations, and they got to see levels of fulfillment and happiness from those populations.
Yeah.
And guess which group had the highest level of fulfillment?
I'm guessing the small businesses.
It was the small business owners, right? And that's when you control for things like money. But when they drill down on why, it's this idea, and there's been a lot of studies since then, it's because of what we'll call procedural utility, which means nothing more than autonomy, which means owning your time. As a business owner, you have the ability to own your time and you have the ability to live congruently, which is why I think for me personally, it has been such a fulfilling career track to take.
Can you share a defining moment in your career that shaped your approach to business and has led to more success?
There is an individual in California named John Pickerel. He owns a chain of fast casual restaurants called the Buckhorn Grill.
Okay.
He is an amazing individual. He's now in his probably late 70s. He's been a business owner for over 50 years.
Wow.
I opened a fitness center and I was 25 in this town where John Pickerel lived and owned a number of businesses, a small town of 7,000 people. I got to know him well over the years. He became a mentor of mine, but he told me when I was 26, he said, Reid, the most fulfillment and the most happiness you're going to get out of being a business owner is going to be by the lives that you positively impact. And those are mostly going to come not from your customers, but from team members that work for you. He's like, that's where it's going to be at for you. And at this point, this is the third club that I'd opened. So I had experience in small business with good people and bad people and everything in between. So I knew enough at that point to really take stake into what he said. I kind of knew it was true. And that has absolutely been my governing philosophy in every business endeavor. I mean, every life endeavor going forward is just the power of relationships. Some of the best relationships in my entire life have been with people that have been a part of the businesses that I've owned. Mm-hmm. So for me, it is all about the people. They're the biggest source of pleasure. They're also the biggest source of pain as well. But to me, business is about people, and it's about how many people I could possibly help and improve their lives in whatever form that goes. So I thank John Pickerel of the Buckhorn Grill for that. And if you're a fan of red meat, it is Pickerel's mission in life to illustrate that there's actually 5 barbecue regions. Region being California tri-tip.
Okay.
On the Santa Ana Grills down in Southern California, which is his whole niche. If you're ever out in California, check out
It sounds good. Over the years, how would you define success? And how do you think you would have defined success maybe 10 years ago compared to now?
Yeah, I think success comes down to one thing, and it comes down to the quality of relationships with people in your life. Harvard does a great Harvard happiness study. If anyone has not yet read that or at least Googled it or watched a quick YouTube video on it, certainly do. And it makes a point that our happiness as human beings is dictated by the quality of relationships by those that are close to us. Parents, significant others, kids, close family, close friends, key team members.
Yeah.
So success in every sense of the word comes down to the people. And I'll put this in concrete terms from BYU. We talked earlier about Chicago Booth and that I got to be TA for that first class. It was absolutely amazing. The 2 first-time adjuncts that taught it, Brian O'Connor and Mark Agnew, great mentors of mine. I'm still very close to Agnew to this day, just super quality individual. And those 2 individuals inspired me in so many ways to want to be more successful as a practitioner and also to go back and teach someday. I attribute that to them. Being a TA changed my life. It led to very good relationships. Now, when I'm a professor here at BYU, I look at it from the opposite perspective. I think about how can I be as helpful? How can I make the TA experience as good or better for the TAs that I have as it was for me? Because being a TA changed my life for the better. And I want to change my TAs' lives and my students' lives for the better as well. Because to me, it's not so much if a student or a TA goes out and does something really cool and, makes $500 million or becomes a member of the 70 or something like that. It's not like so much what they do, which is important. It's more just that relationship, right? I want to be a part of that journey with them. I want to have an emotional interest in their life, what they do and how it plays out. That to me is what I define the success of being a teacher as, under the overall umbrella that success in life simply comes down to relationships.
Yeah. I know on your LinkedIn, you post a lot of good thoughts and business things, right? And on one of them last semester, it was saying, if you have to put in your calendar and remember people's birthdays or special events, you're probably networking wrong, because it should come from a place of genuine interest. So, yeah.
And funny enough, one of my really good friends, one of my top 10 friends in my life, literally texted me yesterday saying happy birthday. And my birthday is January 6th. It wasn't even like but the reason I'm mentioning this story is that I'm still super stoked that he texted me. I don't actually care at all that he got my birthday wrong. It was just great to hear from him.
Yeah.
So key takeaway is that it is never a bad thing to reach out to somebody, even if, you get their birthday wrong, right? I don't think of a single time in my life I've ever been unhappy that an old friend or an old acquaintance reached out to me in some capacity.
Yeah. I love that, because I think from my perspective of success, a lot of it actually has to do with financial, but I also think that's the position I'm in, right? As a student, just getting off, me and my husband are starting where we want to go for careers and everything. A lot of our life looks like that side, but I love, it's very refreshing to be like, hey, take a step back from that financial aspect of success and look at the relationships you have around you.
If I reflect back on my life and I look at the things that have actually driven me to achieve financial success, it is because of some relationship, right? And there's a very bright light side to that. And there's also a very competitive dark side to that as well. But if I was actually to phrase it into what really drives the need to achieve, the need to want to make money, the need to want to do a lot of these things, it is relationships, right? Whether it be that my mother is a very ambitious, hardworking person, so I aspire to emulate that, or that my brother also a successful person, that I want to emulate that as well. If I really drill down onto what has led to the drive to be successful, it is always for the people. And it's not just financial. I look at some of the athletic things that I've done as well.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of mountaineering right now. I was at Aconcagua, 22,000 feet over December, which was very cool. And FYI, one of a BYU student was also on Aconcagua the same time that I was, a student from the ETA class.
Really?
Yeah. So it was an amazing experience because I summited, and then the day after, because they were coming up as I was coming down, I met them in base camp. And his dad has organized about 15 or 16 church members from Utah County to go climb Aconcagua. So I got to meet them, and it was really cool because when you're coming up a mountain, it's really good to have information from someone just coming down it. So we had a very beneficial win-win conversation. But the best part, this was on Sunday, December 27th at 14,000 feet at the base camp of Aconcagua. We had about 15, 16 of us together doing Sacrament, Argentina on Sunday, December 27th. It was a cool experience overall.
Yeah. So speaking of being an athlete, some of the things that you've accomplished, particularly the one from your book where you talk about Mount Neeson.
Yeah, good job. Yeah, Neeson Trump.
And I wrote down the number of steps, of stairs. It's 11,674 stairs. And I'm just kind of curious, how did you kind of adopt this grit it done attitude? Because I feel like we see that so much in your athletics.
So two things. One is that term grit it done came from a team member at a business that I owned. She was working very hard on a Thursday night, doing this really annoying task of balancing accounts, basically balancing invoices across two different databases. Sounds really easy. It's insanely difficult. And as she was working, all kinds of problems, all kinds of issues, technology challenges, whole night. But it had been a nightmarish day already. And it was set up to be a very nightmarish day the next day as well. It was just a nightmarish situation.
Yeah.
She eventually solved it. Her name was Mary. I'm like, Mary, you really know how to grit it done, right? And I just like said it. And then I was at a business owner meeting a couple days later, and I was telling that story, and one of my friends, another business owner, was like, man, you should like, that's a cool phrase, grit it done. That really encapsulates you as a person. You should trademark that. And then that's how that whole thing came about. So to the point of people, right, that whole term came from a person.
Yeah.
The way that I got into athletics is that my parents did it. My happy moments from childhood, particularly with both my parents, with my mother in particular, is that she took me to go climb Half Dome in Yosemite when I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
At that point in my life, I had some confidence issues. I also had asthma. So my mother, got me up before sunrise, like 5:30 in the morning. We start hiking up Half Dome. Best part of the story, by the way, is that we're in the parking lot.
Okay.
It's dark.
Yeah.
And there's us and like another family of 4 that are there. And my mother like goes up to them and it's like, hey, here to climb Half Dome. They're like, yeah, we're from Germany, here to climb Half Dome. Okay. Then my mother, and they have like 2 kids that are in the ballpark of my age. My mom like comes back and looks at me and she gives me this look, which I'll never forget, that, you know what, Reid, we're gonna get to the top before that German family there.
So she could have had like a little bit of a grit it done. Like...
Yeah. And at this point, I had asthma, right? And Half Dome is 16 miles, 4,000 feet of elevation gain.
Yeah.
So I'm like huffing and puffing. And, we don't know how far behind the Germans are. So it's like, just go. We're not going to let them catch us.
Don't look back.
Yeah. And then for those that have been to Half Dome, there's an area called Nevada Falls, right?
Okay.
Which is a couple thousand. It's maybe a third of the way up, right? But it's beautiful, world-class Yosemite waterfalls. And at that point in my life, I liked hot chocolate.
Okay.
And I liked oatmeal. And my mother had promised we were going to stop and have like hot chocolate and oatmeal, top of Nevada Falls, overlooking Yosemite Valley, watching the sunrise.
Yeah.
But we got there and there was like no time because we had to like rush to the top. So she gave me like this day-old muffin that we'd bought in like Merced the day before. But the point is that, very painful at that point. But then something flipped in my head and I said, like I'm all in, like elation. I like felt good.
Yeah.
We got to the top. It was a great experience. Germans got there like probably 40 minutes after us. So there was like a night we definitely accomplished that goal. But that's, if I was to put one formative moment onto when I learned to take like athletics really seriously and learned to take like climbing seriously and to push myself, it was that funny trip with my mom when I was 12 years old on a Half Dome.
No, I love that. So if you could identify one skill or characteristic that's essential for success, maybe in the acquisition space specifically, like what would that be and why? Yeah,
it's very simple. Hard work. I like a saying from Thomas Jefferson, the harder I work, the luckier I seem to get. And I think we talked about a lot of these scripture quotes in class. Romans 7:15, what I hate, that I do, right? Just work hard and do hard things. Do the things that you don't want to do exactly when you don't want to do them. 2 Nephi 2, chapter 2, verse 2. Thou knowest the greatness of God, and he shall consecrate thine afflictions for thy gain. Do the hard things. And if you do the hard things, that's where joy will be on the back end of those. So there's no way around it, right? You're on your mission. You don't want to go knock on that door, but do it, right?
Yeah.
Just do it. Go through that awkwardness, go through that pain, have faith that Heavenly Father is, laying the path before you. Choose faith over fear. And through doing those hard things, that is where pleasure, elation, and joy exist on the other side. It is as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's, whether you're going down to Cedar City to meet a business owner awkwardly, right?
Yeah.
Or getting nervous before a presentation or being, cold called to come up and present in front of class, It's going to be awkward. It's not necessarily going to be fun in the moment, but that's where the real growth comes.
Yeah. No, I love that. Like getting out there and just doing it. What would you say is some advice that maybe you would have given yourself when you were going through college that we can glean from?
Well, I'll put this in 2 perspectives. One will be in the perspective of gratefulness, right?
Yeah.
I went to UC Berkeley and I did not grow up in the church. Now, ironically, I was an Eagle Scout growing up, but I did not grow up in the church. And a good portion of my undergraduate time was spent doing things that students at BYU just don't do by virtue of being at BYU. So I think that being grateful for the structure and the rules and the culture that exists at BYU is absolutely fantastic in that regard. Second thing that I would give people advice to is while you're here in beautiful Provo, take advantage of all the awesome outdoors things that exist around here. Mount Temp, going up to the Y, if you're able go do some skiing, right? Exploring all that Utah has. This is truly one of the Earth's playgrounds, right? Heavenly Father bless Provo with beautiful outdoor stuff. So go enjoy that every single chance that you have, because boy, meeting people in that kind of environment, doing things in the outdoors is such a great, healthy way to cultivate relationships. Taking the transitions to a second to Chicago Booth.
Yeah.
When I was at Booth, I was one of the editors of the newspaper.
Oh, wow.
And one year we were there, I proposed that we dress up in Newsies stuff and go do a polar plunge in Lake Michigan in wintertime, right?
I love that.
What that led to was we made an agreement that every year for 10 years after business school, we were going to go do an outdoors trip with all the Chicago business newspaper people.
Yeah.
So we went to Iceland for one of our fellow editors' weddings, followed by, I took them up Half Dome for my year. Yeah. Every year someone else would plan something, Havasu Pie in the Grand Canyon, a trip to Scotland. So we use the outdoors as a way to stay in touch, right? From business school and beyond. And I think that BYU students have a great opportunity to explore the outdoors and then use that maybe as a way to stay connected going forward.
What strategies do you use to kind of balance out like all the chaos that you've got? What strategies do you use to balance that?
Yeah, I do what is most important, which is usually exactly what I don't want to do first thing in the morning. So for example, when I was writing the book, Grit It Done, which is a book about, buying businesses and of course some fun outdoor stuff in there. Yeah. So you can definitely check it out if you haven't read it, grititdone.com or get it on Amazon, I would just wake up, I'd do a little workout, then I'd write for an hour and a half. And the truth is, I don't have fun writing. I really do not like writing. It's very painful. It is exactly what I don't want to be doing. But I'd get up and I would do it first. Every day for an hour and a half. And that's how the book got written.
So what led you to write the book if you didn't like writing?
Great question. A couple things. One is I believe that buying a business right now is the 21st century manifestation of the American dream. So I wanted to write a book with everything that I knew about how to accomplish that. Second thing is that there's a lot of influencers and other books in the space, a lot of which are fantastic. But one gap, which I thought existed in them, is that people didn't really talk about what it's actually like to run a business. Okay. They talk about how it's really easy to finance a business, or here's the kind of business you can buy or should buy. But the books oftentimes stop there. I wanted to give a sense of, hey, I've done this for 15 years at that point, over a variety of different endeavors. Here's what it's really like in the trenches, right? Here's how it's like to manage people. Here's how it's like to actually get these things open. So I wanted to take frameworks and then apply personal stories to give a actual endeavor of what it's like. It is so much fun. I just can't express how much elation comes when you can invest that kind of energy, that kind of enthusiasm, just be all into making that stuff work. And it's contagious, right?
Yeah.
Other team members of the club, people in the community, it is like lightning in a bottle when I've been able to achieve that. And that's why class at BYU is fun now, because I take the same mentality. I'm all into it, right? I mean, I think, the term that you took it, all 8 of those cases that we wrote, that Isabel wrote and Christian helped with, they're just from the ground up, right? We just literally wrote 8 cases, right? And it's if we're going to do something, we might as well go all in and make it perfect. If we're going to do an ETA undergrad class, we're going to make it the best one in the history of ETA undergrad classes, right?
Yeah.
At least that's going to be the vision. So
no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So any last words or last piece of advice that you would give to students or sharing about business acquisition and success in general?
I would say that a couple things. Hitting on the theme that we already talked about. Yeah. If you're not all in, you're in the way. Take the time to figure out what endeavor, lights you up, what endeavor you're really willing to invest in, and go all into it. Simple as that. If you go all in, that's where the elation comes. You'll enjoy the journey. And the truth is, if you're successful and you make a lot of money, great, right? But if you're not successful and don't make money, as long as you're all in, you're enjoying the journey and you're doing the right thing at every single point, I promise you with 100% certainty, things will work out one way or another. Key takeaway, if you're not all in, you're in the way.
Thank you for listening to the Measuring Success Right podcast. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss the next interview. The Measuring Success Right podcast is a production of the Marriott Student Review. This episode was produced by Stuart Bird, Allison Pope, Sarah Bird, Taya Wolf Hobson, and Jackson Berthold. Sound design and audio engineering by James Call. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast do not reflect the official views or opinions of Brigham Young University or The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.